selected. You have control.
Welcome to the Historical Interface Museum. You have selected the Roman Empire. All evidence loaded and ready for investigation.
Load the options, curator.
Certainly.
All right, so tell me about everyday life.
Select a piece of evidence.
I can't decide. You choose for me.
To Romans, the only life worth living was in the towns. As the Romans spread, they took everything they might need with them, including their ideal town, not on paper, but in their heads, tried and tested throughout the empire. Two main streets forming a cross. At the center, the Forum, a paved area where the citizens could mingle. The Basilica, a large meeting hall.
Seems very civilized.
So it should. The word civilized comes from the Roman word for town, civitas. Colonnades, covered walkways. Offices for the magistrates who ran the town. Shops. The temple.
It would be so much easier to imagine if I could just go back in time.
Take, say, 12 o'clock on the 24th of August, AD 79. Modestus the baker has just put 81 loaves into his oven. There were a couple of guys sitting twiddling their thumbs in the prison cell at the gladiators' school. Oh, and Vesonius's dog was having a good scratch and guarding his front door. And one of the priests at the Temple of Isis was taking the top off his boiled eggs.
You can't possibly know all that.
I can, because the town was Pompeii. Vesuvius erupted on August 24th, AD 79, and buried Pompeii under 6 meters of volcanic ash. It simply stopped in time. Until 1748, when an Italian farm worker found a piece of half-buried marble and set off one of the most dramatic treasure hunts of all time. Imagine if a modern town was put in a time warp and reappeared 2,000 years in the future. For the archaeologists, finding Pompeii was like meeting Doctor Who and getting a free trip through time.
Can I see the town?
Of course, if you select it. But remember, even in Pompeii, there are many things we don't know. Pompeii, a small industrial town by the sea. Estimated population 12,000. An important center for the wool trade. Its wine was said to give the worst hangovers in the empire. Its main products were cabbages and fish sauce. The Forum.
Usual thing, colonnade for shade, triumphal arches.
Temple of Jupiter. Vesuvius there in the background. This is the main shopping street, once packed with people. Household slaves shopping for food, rich men gossiping, beggars, snake charmers, a weaver touting her wares, and everywhere the hammering din of tinkers, blacksmiths, goldsmiths. Stones to cross the road and to keep out of the mud when the rains came. Ancient bollards to stop carts getting through. Ruts from the cartwheels show how heavy the traffic was. Lead pipes for taking water to the public fountains and the baths. Houses?
Where?
The houses didn't have windows on the outside walls. This kept out the noise and the dust and heat. Here's a doorway.
Who lived here?
Take a look around. See what you can find out.
It's a big place. Lots of space. They must have been rich. There's not much else to go on.
The house was owned by the Vetti family.
How do you know that?
Seals belonging to Aulus Vettius Restitutus and Aulus Vettius Conivus, the Vetti brothers.
What about the rest of the family?
Select reconstruction.
If you came to dinner, my husband and I would meet you here.
I don't want a reconstruction. I want more on the real family.
There was no evidence found to give any clues, but if you want to build up a picture of Roman family life, select evidence from across the empire.
A mother and father and 2 children. Were most Roman families like this?
It's hard to be sure. They probably had more children since many died young. This inscription tells of a Roman woman, Venturia, who gave birth to 6 children, but only 1 survived. This memorial is for our daughter, Hateria Superba, who lived 1 year, 6 months, 25 days.
Cicero to Atticus, Rome, May 19th. My dear Tullia had a baby boy today, 2 months premature. She had a good delivery, but I'm afraid the child is a puny little creature.
Any mothers writing about their children? Typical.
There are friezes, pictures, or this time, why not select reconstruction?
Children are important. Sons, you see, heirs to carry on the family. When my husband was looking for a wife, it wasn't so much the dowry he was interested in, it was healthy sons he wanted. I didn't have much to say in the matter. Our families arranged everything. But I was lucky. For a start, my husband is rich, and that makes a big difference. Some people can't even afford to keep their children. Girls left out to die.
That can't be true.
It was common practice. Unwanted or sickly babies left to die.
That's terrible.
This is from Egypt. Hilarion, the husband, is writing to his wife. Should you have the baby before I return, let it live if it's a boy, but if it's a girl, expose it to the elements.
Didn't they love their children?
In their way, yes. Young Romans dressed like their parents, attended public functions, and were expected to behave like grown-ups. They also married young, girls often by 12. But then people didn't live so long. 1 child in 3 could expect to lose their father by the age of 10. 1 child in 20 lost both parents by that age.
What about their parents? Who was in charge?
According to the law, husbands rule their wives as possessions that cannot be taken from them. If she does any wrong, the man she has wronged becomes her judge and can decide what kind of punishment she should receive. But the law also said, if a wife obeys her husband, she is as much a mistress of the house as he is master. In practice, of course, it's impossible to say what really happened behind the closed doors of Roman households.
Sometimes I wonder what I'd do if he decided to divorce me. You know, just like that. I mean, we have children, so there's no cause there. But what if he decided I was getting ugly? Or talked too much? No, he wouldn't do that. But it has happened. To people I know. Boyfriends on the side. When Lucius Hermia found out that his wife had fallen for a gladiator, he had her put to death. Of course, if it had been the other way around, nothing would have happened. The only way a woman can divorce her husband is if he's leaving anyway, running off or joining the legions.
What about love?
Hard to know, but that's not to say that people who had arranged marriages didn't fall in love.
It's incredible how much I miss you, because I love you, and because we're just not used to being apart. At night I lie awake, haunted by your image. During the day my feet lead me to your room, but then you're not there, and I leave, sick at heart, like a lover locked out on a deserted doorstep.
That's enough evidence on families. I want that house again. So what room's this?
The atrium.
If you came to dinner, my husband and I would meet you here. We'd talk, relax, see the pool. Well, that catches the rain from the roof and gives us all the water we need. Strong boxes, money, cash. Well, my husband and his brother, well, they're the Vetty brothers. Well, I know some people say it's a bit vulgar to show off your wealth, but I say, why not? A sitting room, marble floors, painted walls, molded plasterwork on the ceiling. Nice, isn't it? We use the rooms around the atrium in the winter. Apart from the sitting room, there's a dining room and some bedrooms.
In your detail box, original Roman beds. Pole holes for the swing doors. The summer dining room.
Here we'd eat, reclining on couches. The frieze? Oh, well, that's a few of my husband's business interests. The flowers for making perfume coming in from the countryside. Flowers being boiled in oil and selling it to the customers. They're also goldsmiths and into the cloth and wine trade.
Peristyle garden. We know exactly what was planted in these gardens because we have the evidence of the pollen. Each plant has a different type of pollen, scientifically examined hundreds of years later to tell us which plants were grown.
Is that the end of the tour?
No.
The slave quarters. We have 7 house slaves at the moment. Here's the kitchen.
Most cooking was done over charcoal, like a modern barbecue.
What? They ate burgers?
For our dinner tonight? Well, dormice in honey sprinkled with poppy seeds, a female wild boar with marzipan piglets, a huge pig stuffed with sausages and blood puddings. Oh, and those thrushes you liked so much, rolled in flour and stuffed with nuts and raisins.
Ugh. Nice house. Shame about the food. Show me the rest of the town. Was it like towns today?
Well, let's see. There was a theater, an arena for races and fights, town hall, courthouse, markets, shops, and bars. Lots of them. All evidence of everyday life. The choice is yours.
I'll take a probe.
There were at least 120 bars in Pompeii. Mostly little corner pubs, maybe just a single room with wine in containers fixed to the bar so it kept cool. The jars at the back held snacks, beans and lentils, olives. Most people had lunch at bars like this. They'd grab a plate of beans on the run.
Like a fast food takeaway.
Definitely.
What are you hanging around out there for an hot night like this? Come on in, we've got wine at all sorts of prices, even cool water, cheese, all kinds. We'll set the dice up for you again. Or, if you prefer, we've got music and entertainments out the back.
Stephanus's Laundry. Stephanus's Laundry. The name is known from graffiti. Laundry was big business in Pompeii. The fullers, as they were called because they used fuller's earth for cleaning, mended and washed togas and tunics. The cloth was bleached with sulfur smoke and urine, collected every day from the jars on street corners.
What happened here?
Maybe a barber would have set up his stall here. Select text.
And if you don't want a quick visit to the underworld, you should avoid Antiochus the barber. The scars on my chin, count them, may look like wounds from a gladiatorial fight, but they're not. They were caused by the accursed hand of Antiochus. Oh yes, believe me, the goat is the only sensible one around here. By keeping his beard, he stays clear of the demon barber.
The bakers. They'd have ground all their own flour, usually with donkeys, but sometimes slaves turning the millstone. Sometimes stone from the grinder fell into the flour, and customers complained of chipped teeth. The baker's oven.
So what shops were here?
There were men and women in so many trades. There were weavers, moneylenders, goldsmiths, blacksmiths, fishmongers.
How do you know?
Because of the graffiti written on the walls for the forthcoming elections.
The greengrocers ask you to elect Marcus Priscus for city magistrate.
The mule driver vote for Gaius Julius Polybus. The goldsmiths say, go with Gaius Pansa.
The barbers hack it for Trebius.
What happened to them all?
The eruption of Vesuvius. First, a blast of gas blew a huge cloud of pumice and dust miles into the air. The gas, carbon monoxide, was heavier than air and rolled down the mountain into the town, suffocating many hundreds of people. Then the scorching ash swept over the houses, burying, choking wherever it went. "2,000 people died. Pompeii, the best tool we have to unravel ordinary life in a Roman town. Isn't that right, Melanie?
All systems disengaging.